will be sitting down with some senior developers and breaking down some of the most popular technical tasks out there for evaluating job seekers. These tech tasks will be scored by a number of factors: the costing for the company, the effectiveness in rating a candidate's capability, the task's fakeability, its relevance, and its popularity. This will be a really interesting series which should give a range of perspectives on the current methods of hiring within the tech industry.
In this video, we're discussing in-house custom-made tasks. Unlike standardized assessments, these tasks are specifically designed by a company's internal team to reflect real-life projects, processes, or challenges that candidates would tackle on the job. They're often crafted to test not just technical ability, but also creativity, alignment with the company's goals, and even problem solving under constraints unique to the organization. We've got 3 industry experts on hand to review and rate this type of task out of 10 on all the different aspects. Let's get into it.
I think in terms of the cost, it's pretty cheap because you can just make it in-house, typically using the tools that you've already got and that the team already use. But the biggest cost can be on the time. So sometimes there's that upfront investment of time to create that. I'd say it could be an 8 out of 10.
You can spend both too long and not enough time to make it valuable test, and therefore I'll give it a 7.
If little time is spent on the questions in the generic, then they're not much use to the company. And if you spend a lot of time on making specific questions, it's going to take a long time to make them. They're about a 3.
I think they can be really effective. Again, sometimes it can be aiming about the skills that you would typically use in that development job. However, again, I do see some of them overshoot asking more advanced questions. It can be effective because it's almost tailor-made for that organization. I think effectiveness, again, maybe an 8 out of 10.
I don't think that you get to see how somebody thinks or solves problems. And so you're going to miss out on the soft skills. Therefore, I would give effectiveness 5.
If it's specific, it's generally more useful, but everything's in isolation. So how do they link these ideas together? How do they link the processes together? And if it's a generic test, then you're basically just wasting everybody's time. So probably about 4.
The few technical tests I've done that have been built in-house, some of them have been actually performed live. Like I've connected to a VM, or I've been in the office and there's no one else been in the room. I've just been left in a room to work on the test. It's been limited tools, or you can't connect to certain things. So it's just the skills that you have and what you can memorize. However, these days, I'm sure you could maybe open Copilot and other tools and get some answers too. One organization I did see cope with this really well was that they actually recorded the session. So if you Googled for any of those things, they could see what extent you had to do that. I think there are ways to fake it, but if you're being supervised, that will be noticed. It just really depends the approach used for that test. So that could be a 9 out of 10.
I do think that you can prepare for these kind of problems. The fact that it's a takeaway means you could search online for similar solutions to problems and present someone else's results. I would have to give it a 4.
If it's a generic test, somebody else will have done the questions. If the test has been done for any previous iterations, so say you had a round of interviews in January, if you do them again in May, use the same questions, those questions will be on the internet. I'm going with 0 being it's dead easy to fake it.
I think that, those kind of tests can be really relevant because they are made specifically for that organization and for that role. But again, if it does overshoot or cover other topics rather than just, those 2 or 3 core skills you would use, it's maybe good to get a good all-round view of related tech stacks. So I'd say, 9 out of 10.
You could spend a lot of time making something very relevant to your company and the kind of problems that you're trying to solve on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to give it 6.
Either 5 if the question's been written in-house, because then you've got some relevance to what you actually do. But then you're missing the context and the linking and the planning and all those other bits and pieces. And if they're from the internet, about a 2. If you've just got a generic test, probably that 4 is about right.
Popularity potentially a bit lower. Some people don't like the hands-on coding or the hands-on techie side of it. So I'd say maybe a 5, somewhere in the middle.
I do think this is a very popular solution because developers think they can come up with the kind of problems that will indicate the kind of developers that they want to employ. So it is, yeah, I got to give this a 10. It is incredibly popular.
It's dead easy to do and it's quick. You can usually blast through it in 20 minutes, half an hour, or something like that, depending on how many questions and what type of questions and things. So about a 7.